Good morning, Brother Paul. How are you today? You're muted.
Good afternoon.
Yes. And good morning, Brother Dudley. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Wiltshire in England.
Oh, well then good afternoon to you. Yes. All right. Brian, making you co-host.
Thank you.
Good to have you join us, Dudley. I think you're a first timer here.
I'm all over the place, but I come in through Brian.
Okay.
Brian liaises these things, so
Very
Brian
good.
knows very well.
All right. Well, it's good to have you here. So like I was saying, Brian, I'm trying to think of ways we can monetize at least a little. If I can sell shirts, books, anything online, and just, if there's not a lot of effort on our part to set it up and not really an upfront cost, it's just sort of like as people buy them, they print them and send them. So it's extra money that will come into the lodge that we don't have to spend a lot of time managing. I think the internet lets us do that,
That's exactly the way that the province of Cornwall does it. You actually order it and they get it done when you've paid for it.
Right. And that's neckties and such.
Wait, sweatshirts and say baseball cap.
Right.
I think they do a t-shirt as well and a face mask with a Bill badge on it.
Right. Okay. Well, might as well. People are always in the mood to buy stuff. Some idea I've been kicking around here for over a year now. And there's buy-in from the lodge on doing this, but we want to come up with something. I'm calling it a patron, where basically, because people ask me, can I join Virginia Research Lodge? And normally it's yes, you got to show up. You got to be a member of a Grand Lodge that we recognize, and then you pay, you affiliate like you would with any other lodge, and you pay your dues every year. Well, that means our secretary has to send dues notices to people in other states and keep up with them. And I think it's almost more of a nuisance than it's worth to get $20, $25 out of somebody every year, right? Mm-hmm. So I came up with this idea for a patron position where you give a one-time fee. We haven't worked all the details. So like $250, $300, something. And we send you a nice little frameable, certificate that you're a patron of Virginia Research Lodge, and a little card that you can carry, and maybe like a book or something. And people are interested in that. They support museums. I think other lodges have done something like this. So it's something where it's one-time income for us. We're not every year chasing after the guy to get our $25, right? But it's good money for the lodge to pay for other things like printing more books or something. And it gives somebody out there who's really interested in supporting us, a chance to be involved and not bother with affiliating. But we're going to have to run it by the Grand Lodge and get permission, because you won't technically be a member of the lodge. You'll just be a patron. So I don't know. Might as well. God, there's so many ways to make money online. If I were younger, I would put all my effort into finding ways to monetize and make money online, because I can sell videos. There's a lot of things you can do online, but honestly, my current job pays me enough. I don't have to do that. I'm already successful enough. I don't have to do that. But if I was just coming into the game now in my 20s and wasn't making any real money in a regular job, I would invest in going online and becoming like an influencer online or something. There's so many ways to make money without any real skill. See, so it's, you just have to put in the effort and sell stuff. It's crazy. You got YouTubers, kids out there. You have people who make videos of them watching other people's videos, and people will watch that. It's not just, Paul is playing a video game. So Paul's got a YouTube video where he's playing some video game, right? And he puts that online. I would make a video of me watching Paul playing a video game, and I would get more views than he does, because I'm a funny reactor to his stuff. I'm not kidding. I wish I was. My son watches these stupid videos. I'm like, you're watching someone else watching someone. What the heck? But those are the ones who are really popular. That's like, God, we have good content online. I'm happy if I get 5 people to watch one of our videos, That's a big deal. You got people with millions of subscribers and millions of views of just crap. Something's wrong with the world. Something is wrong. Morning, Derek. How are you today? Guess Derek is still getting in. Morning, Brother Rick. Good to see you again.
Mind you, Christopher, there's things put on the radio and TV that are absolute rubbish. You think,
Right.
how the hell did that get broadcast?
Yep. Well, I expect TV to be crap, but that's kind of like halfway implied that TV should be crap. And they actually have people who get paid money to figure. I mean, honestly, if you're in television, you have people whose job it is to figure out what kind of crap do people expect to see on TV, and then they say, well, you need to make a show about, you know, a man and a woman, a child and a dog that live in a farm in Yorkshire, and that will sell. And so they make, you know, the Yorkshire Tales with an IL. And
You actually
know,
get that over there, do you?
yeah, I watched it online. It's all on YouTube. I have to use a VPN to get to UK YouTube so I can watch it. That's another thing here. It's like Netflix, right? You all familiar with like Netflix,
Yeah.
these streaming services? Here in the US, I can only watch certain shows on Netflix, right? If I live in another country, I can watch other shows because they're restricted in what countries they can show certain shows. It's just how it is. Well, I can get a VPN for like $15 a month or something, virtual privacy network, right? Which I use in the government all the time. It's like, in order for me to remote in and see secure stuff, I have a VPN on that laptop and I can remote in. Well, you can get your own VPN. See, I got to get NordVPN to let me sponsor. They can sponsor me and pay me to say this, right? But anyway, NordVPN is one of them. But basically, you pay for a VPN, and then you're on your computer and using the VPN, you pick an IP in like Norway, and then you can watch Netflix as if you're in Norway and watch whatever shows they offer there, and see shows you can't watch here in the US. So, I mean, there's also security things and all that reason people use them to protect what they're doing and all, but people do it just to be able to watch other shows streaming. So it's amazing. People come up with all of these clever ways to get around restrictions. It's hilarious. Morning, Brother Alan, and you are not behind the wheel.
No, home today.
Excellent. It's good to have you here. I barely recognize you with the roof of your cab there. All right. Brother Derek, now we can see you. Welcome. Where are you coming from, brother?
Yes. I'm actually in Leamington, Ontario, Canada, and I am presently at work at the moment. So
Okay.
if I turn my video off, that's why. But I'm very much looking forward to this presentation.
Well, good. Well, this is important. This is growing your mind. It's making you a more well-rounded individual. So, oh, good. And Owen is here. I was starting to worry.
Our daily advancement in Masonic knowledge is the way I look at it.
Absolutely. I saw a meme the other day of some guy sitting at his computer, and boss says, you know, Derek, I'm afraid we're going to have to lay you off. Derek pauses his anime. Why? What's wrong?
Well, thankfully, I have a boss who's okay with me doing these types of things on Saturdays.
Oh, very good. Well, yeah, it is Saturday after all. All right. Brother Snowdon, good to have you with us. He's our guest speaker today. If you want to say hello to everybody.
Appreciate it.
I asked you to have a busier background. Could you possibly get a busier background to be behind you? This is a little too plain. What you got going on? I do like that. Is that in your house there?
Oh, this?
Yes.
Yeah, it's my own little museum.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. I like that.
Some
like an island
quite
free
some
room.
oddities in there.
Okay. This is actually the back wall of my house right here. I'm out on the porch. And, you know.
All right.
And Mike, it's okay, Alan. Brother Michael is behind the wheel. So we have at least one member who is showing us the cab of his vehicle, the top of his vehicle. Good to have you with us there, Michael.
Good evening or good morning, brethren. I'm actually on the way to my Lodge of Research meeting. It's about another hour away from me, so I figured I'd pop in.
Oh, that is
silently
awesome. That's
observe.
awesome. Watching a research meeting, driving to a research lodge meeting. That is okay. You have out geeked all of us today, Michael.
Well, to be fair, I'll be listening in for most of it because I'm going to keep my eyes on the road.
Oh, yes, absolutely,
So-
absolutely. So, yeah, we don't. You stay safe. Don't need to look at us. Not much to see here, anyway.
Can I just say, Christopher, it's really good to see my old friend John Hughes. I hope you're okay, John.
I'm trying to be. Thank you, Dudley.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
John is always okay. He just doesn't look like it. He always looks like he's angry. He's looking off in the corner and he looks upset most of the time. He's not. He just looks, I don't know. He's always like,
Well, that's because I've got 2 monitors.
I know, but it's like you're
I'm
watching the
looking
stock
at
market
monitors.
or something and you're like, oh. Well, it's nice to have regulars. It really is. I'm getting to know you guys. It's funny. I only see you guys, every other Saturday or so, but I'm getting to know you all and knowing your peculiarity, your quirks. So this is a lot of fun.
And talking of regulars, Michael, is that a body bag on your back seat there, mate?
Negative. That is my bag of bottles for return. We have a deposit on soft drink bottles in Michigan for 10 cents a piece.
Oh, that's a good idea.
That's extra gas money on occasion.
Very good idea. Surprised they don't do that in the UK.
Yeah. Well, we did.
Well, the
many
thing
years
is,
ago.
if you go over to, say, Chicago, they don't have a deposit at all, but they do have a pretty extensive recycling structure. In Michigan, it got to the point where a long time ago, they decided to put deposit on all soft drink, anything with carbonation in it. So beer or pop, you had a 10-cent deposit on it. They're thinking about actually adding deposits to water bottles and that sort of thing, just because you see those everywhere, but you don't see the cash money deposit bottles everywhere.
I think Washington State had that. Maybe they still do. I don't know. I think Virginia had it, did away with it. I don't know. But,
A lot of them that do it, it's only 5 cents.
right.
I know Arizona used to do that. Just have a friend out there. I don't know if they still do it. Right.
That I don't know. I do know that as much as it's considered a federal offense, I would keep all my bottles in my truck when I was going over the road and just return them in Michigan. But to be fair, the majority of the bottles that I bought, I stocked up on whatever I needed in Michigan. You just happen to pick up stuff when you're out too long or, you run out of it. And yeah, it does build up, but at the same time, it's better than some of the guys just throw it anywhere outside their window.
That's true.
So. And I'm going to go back to putting you on mute. So I'm going to hit all the potholes in the world here.
Yes.
Hey, mate.
Right.
So it's 10:04, and as usual, I have no idea how many people to expect for these meetings. We're currently at 10, so that's pretty good. So I want to try to get as big a crowd as I can, but it's just
Fine.
we get what we get, and it is on YouTube. So hopefully, at least 2 or 3 other people in the world will go and watch it later.
Oh, well, that's not bad.
Because I never know when to start, because it seems like every time I start something, that's when people start signing in too. So I try and make sure that we get all of our attendees filtered in before we turn it over to the guest speaker, so you don't get interrupted or people don't miss your program. But this before part is always fun too. It's hard. It's a hard decision to make when to start the video, because I don't want to just have useless fluff, but some of this fluff is kind of fun. So generally, it's when anyone starts talking about something interesting, I back up to just before that and include that in the broadcast. So.
Right.
Okay, it is just after 10 o'clock. My name is Chris Douglas. I want to welcome everybody to Virginia Research Lodge number 1777's Unstated Meeting. And I am going to put in the chat our few URLs for you all. And I'm going to cut this for a, put it on the video, maybe by itself as an introduction or something. So here we have our Facebook group. This is for Virginia Research Lodge. If you go in there every week, we have upcoming events such as this one that are hosted online that may be of interest to Masons. We also have our weekly research paper from the various research lodges here in Virginia. We post one every week. We also email it out. The next is a link to our web page where you can find all of our papers and other interesting things I've built over the years. I have a Grand Lodge locator for Grand Lodges and Supreme Councils around the world. And it's an unfinished project. I'm working on building connectivity between all of the different Grand Lodges, who recognizes whom. And that's only partly underway, so that's far from finished. But it does have all 180 some regular Grand Lodges and about as many Supreme Councils that I've located in the world with their websites and what all. So that's a useful tool for people. Then we have our YouTube channel, which is where we post videos like this. So if you're watching this, you've already found the YouTube channel. And then finally is my email address. If you want to sign up for our weekly research papers, you're more than welcome to either go to our Facebook page and message me directly, or you can just send me an email. We'd love to have you on our mailing list. Morning, Brother Eric. Good of you to join us.
Eric seems to be having trouble connecting to sound.
All right.
He's from Sweden and he's a regular at my group.
Okay. I think, yeah, Eric's been here. I think Eric was a speaker, or he's going to be a.
Yeah, he is in a couple of weeks.
He's going to be our speaker. That's right. He is an upcoming speaker. So yes, very good to have him here. And I'm just bringing this up. Today, oh, Brother Days here, good. Today's topic is how the Masons and Knights of the Golden Horn saved the Ark of the Companions. And that's, I think, maybe the longest title we've had for one of these meetings. But Brother Owen Snowdon will be our guest speaker in a few minutes, and he will explain all of that. Brother Aday, good to have you here. I see you're signing in.
Yeah, good to be here. Hope you're doing great. Thank you.
Yes. One of our regular Canadian attendees. All right. And let's see. I said hello to everybody. Oh, Robert has joined us. So good. Yeah, Rooster said Keith said he wouldn't be here this week. And okay, Eric's just watching. That's good. I expect Rooster to be here. Here is Robert, our senior warden. Good to have you here, brother. And Rooster, our worshipful master, is normally here as well. But I know that Keith, our secretary, was he actually told me he wasn't going to be here. I'm not used to people telling me they're not going to be here. It's like they just don't show. So Keith is very polite. We appreciate that. And Robert's moving into a position where he can sit comfortably and watch us. Yeah, it is fun. It is a funny thing. I know, Brian, you deal with these online chats too. It's like you never know how many people are going to come. You know, there's no obligation to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't be there." Occasionally, I do have people tell me they can't, and I appreciate that. But they're kind of the rarity that people just don't show. But the funniest thing, it's almost useless, the event counter on Facebook, because it'll say 30 people interested and 10 are attending. It's like, great. And I might see one of them. So I don't know. The event thing is supposed to tell you how many people are showing up. I think people automatically click OK just to say they like it. They don't actually plan to attend, because I've yet to see everyone who said I will be there to an event on Facebook actually turn up at the event. So I don't give that a lot of weight. So. How are you doing today, Robert? You're muted. You're on mute. He has a lot to say, but he's on mute. Try again. How you doing, Robert?
Yes. I'm doing well. I'm sorry I missed the last two, but I had a prior commitment that came up, but one came up unexpectedly and that I didn't know about, but knew was going to happen, but I didn't know exactly when. And then the last one, I had something that I had to sign up for 3 months ago.
I understand. That's right. We appreciate you making an effort to attend. The more of us, the merrier. All right.
Apropos what you were saying, Christopher, one of my favorite sayings, if you want to shut a Mason up, write him a letter. It usually works.
Absolutely. Yes. We had a problem in our lodge a couple of years ago where we had a serious cockroach infestation, and everything we tried, nothing worked. Terminix came out. We tried spraying ourselves. Nothing worked to control the roaches in the lodge. And the master that year had a clever idea. He rounded up all of the roaches. They were all initiated, passed, and raised, and we never saw a single one again. Okay, that is our Masonic dad joke of the day. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn us over to Brother Owen Snowdon, who will introduce himself, since I'm a terrible host and I don't bother doing any research, and he can give us all the titles he wants. Please don't make the titles half of your program, but go ahead and give us the highlights, and you can take it away with your program, sir.
Right. Hi, Brevin. As many as might know us, my name is Brother Owen Snowdon. I've got a very big fascination for the history of fraternal Masonic history. I run my own website, which I'll put in the link in description. Basically, I love to talk about the history. I do believe our history is important and shouldn't be forgotten about, because sadly, a lot of history of lodges goes to the wayside and gets forgotten about, and it's a shame, because not just the Masons, but other fraternal organizations, the history is so rich, and it's such a shame when we lose it. So with that concluded, I'll give you a bit of information about myself. I'm a member of altogether about 19 lodges of all the fraternities I'm part of. I'm a member of about several organizations, including the Freemasons, to the Oddfellows, to Knights of the Golden Horn, to the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffalo. So, as any further ado, let's start. Right. Right. Is that working? Oop. Here we go. Yep, there we go. Right. Right, brethren. How the Knights of the Golden Horn and the Freemasons helped save the Guild Ark of the Companions. Right. Presented by Brother Owen Snowdon, Master Mason and a companion of the Knights of the Golden Horn. Right. A little history of the Knights of the Golden Horn, because many people on here probably are wondering, what is the Knights of the Golden Horn and what was their purpose? So I'm going to go on a bit of information about the various different organizations which are related to the Guild Ark of the Companions. Right, so let's begin. Knights of the Golden Horn was founded in 1872 and for many years operated within a fraternal organization which is solely based in the United Kingdom but is worldwide at one point, called the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes, or the RAOB. The RAOB helped grow the Knights of the Golden Horn and its encampments, which they called their lodges, throughout the United Kingdom, mostly in the north. And it's still active in the north, from an area in Sunderland down to, is it Spennymoor? Spennymoor, yeah. To Hull, places like that, it's still very active. So until basically the Knights of the Golden Horn was I wouldn't say an inner body, but it was more of a, how can I say it, like, it was when brethren like as ourselves have degrees. When a brother ascends to their third degree in the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffalo, they would be invited to join the Knights of the Golden Horn. The Knights of the Golden Horn would invite the Knight, which is the third degree, a Knight Order of Merit in the RAOB, and with that, they would join that organization, which was a side order. Sadly, it broke away because it had a bit of a huff, as many side orders can do from time to time. It had a huff, it spat its dummy out the pram, and it basically said, well, we're going to go independent. Because what happened was, it was something to do with a dispensation, and which was a warrant. They refused to give them a dispensation under the right that the Golden Horn wanted to initiate non-members of its mother order, the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffalo. So what happened with that was they broke away, formed the United Grand Lodge of the Knights of the Golden Horn, which is still around to this day. I myself am a member, I am a companion of it, the first degree. They have about 6 degrees from the companion to the Knight of the Order, to the Knight of the Shield, to Senior Sir Knight Chancellor, all the way up to Senior Arch Knight Chancellor. Gets a bit like ornate, a bit ridiculous. But their degrees take a very long time. Other than certain organizations, you can get them in a few years. This organization, it's more built on long service. So let's say you were a member for 30 years, you might possibly get up to Royal Senior Sir Royal Lodge Chancellor, which would be their, I think, 5th degree. Anyway, so now we'll move on to the Guild Orc of the Companions, brethren. A bit of history on the Guild Orc of the Companions. The Guild Orc of the Companions, or the CA, started out as an additional or higher order available to members of the Royal Antediluvian Order Buffalo under the Knights of the Golden Horn. What happened with that was they sadly, what happened with that was basically when the Knights of the Golden Horn broke away, it became its own sovereign body in its own right. But the Guild Orc of the Companions sadly only lasted 21 years. After that, which there wasn't much known on the organisation. It was basically went extinct and dormant and was forgotten about. Sadly, like all things, like in Freemasons, you've got the Ancient Order Gorgomons, which not many know about, but that side order is completely still extinct, and all records of it are nearly all but gone. But a few, I think, just a leaflet on it survives. So, in keeping with many fraternal societies in the 19th century, the Guild Orc of the Companions was heavily influenced by Masonic ritual and protocol. As you can see from the picture in front of you, brethren, the jewel is very similar and very inspired by the Royal Orc Mariners. It is indeed they are out. When the Guild Orc of the Companions was formed, 3 out of 5 of its founders were past masters in masonry, and as such, constitution of the order was very simple, being issued for philosophical purposes, what could be called a Masonic basis. As stated earlier, the Guild Orc of the Companions was formed as a higher degree, although it was always in reality a district organisation for those who had ascended to the 2nd degree. So when a brother in the REOB ascends to the 2nd degree, a primo, which a brother has to go through an examining council under the Grand Lodge of England, or if you are a member of another banner, the Grand Council, you go front of a sub-council. They all have different jurisdictions and how they run it, but a brother has to learn their obligation. They have to learn the opening, closing, how to run a lodge, the rules and constitution of the order, all by memory, and go in front of a council. And if they pass that council, they are then deemed to be raised to the higher degree of a primo. This organisation, the Guild Orc of the Companions, had the duty and pleasure of, when a brother was ready, to raise and exalt that brother to the high degree of primo. The first meeting of the Guild Orc of the Companions was held on a Wednesday, October the 8th, 1873, at the Coach and Horse, opposite Somerset House in the Strand, where it met for many years. The 5 founders were, as you can see the names below on the presentation. Unfortunately, information about these founders is scarce, owing to many records being at Harrogate destroyed in a flood. Not the flood you're thinking of, brethren. Not the antediluvian flood. Basically, what happened was there was a flood at their Grand Lodge of England in Harrogate. There was a flood in the building, and a lot of documents were destroyed, sadly, and they were untraceable to basically find out what these documents were. So they were just destroyed. There was only one lodge of the guild that the I can't say that word. Number 1, as it was deemed desirable by its founders to limit its membership. They were trying to make it very exclusive, so it was seen as more, it would encourage brethren to want to progress in the order to, how can I say, they wanted to progress the brethren in the order to make them feel like, look, I've accomplished this, I've now entered this kind of inner circle, which is very exclusive. It was to encourage brethren to raise up to further degrees. Right. As an all fraternal order, it's changed its venue for meetings over the years. It met at the Peacock, the Covent Gardens, then at E Savoy Place, the Savile Street to Strand, and then finally at the Portugal Hotel, Fleet Street. And during the nearly 21 years of its existence, a large number of its members joined its ranks. But by 1894, the order the guild having fell into decline and was not in a flourishing condition. We assume that very shortly afterwards, it ceased to exist as a variable organization. So basically, after 21 years, it just ceased. It ceased. They weren't, because they were making it exclusive, they weren't getting the members. They weren't getting the amount of influx of members to keep it going. So it eventually just ceased. Throughout some research in the libraries of Grove House in Harrogate and the United Grand Lodge of England in Great Queen Street, London, a number of jewels and aprons of the guild were discovered, which bear a striking similarity to that by an ancient fraternity of the Royal Ark Mariners. The jewels have a dove-shaped bar, which I'll show you in the next segment, representing an old seeing eye and Noah's Ark and is suspended on a plain or rainbow-coloured ribbon. The apron having bordered of a rainbow ribbon, but unlike the Royal Ark Mariner degree, the apron is curved at the bottom, and bears the old seeing eye, and the Noah's Ark device similar to that of the jewel. Some jewels discovered bear the name of the first lodge, the lodge. We can only assume that from at some time after 1894, the guild was reformed, but cannot have lasted long as there's no document proof. So basically, after 21 years, someone did try to get it going again, but the problem was it wasn't working. It didn't work, and it went back into dormant and extinct. It basically became extinct once again. So, brethren, before I show you the regalia of it, which you'll probably want to really like to see, I'll tell you the story of how the order basically was saved and brought back. This was coming from accounts of Masons who were members of the Knights of the Golden Horn and now Ark of the Companion members. Basically, they were sitting around a table one day having lunch, having a few drinks, and one of them went, "Oh, you know, we're all members of the Buffs and we're all members of the Golden Horn and Masonry. What was that order similar to the Royal Ark Mariners?" So these members were all sitting around the table and they plundered and thought, what was it called? And one of them went, "The Guild Ark, the Companions, that was it." And they went, "That's it." So what these brethren said is, we should bring it back. And they said, "But what documentation could we use to bring this back?" So with the very little amount of information, these brethren managed to salvage through archives, through 2 Grand Lodges, from 2 separate fraternal organizations to even a third fraternal organization. They managed to bring this organization back from its ruin. The organization is still around to this day and it's not too big, but it's better than it was when it only lasted 21 years. I think it currently has 4 or 5 lodges, mostly in the northeast. Current location of one being Sunderland. So I will now show you some of the regalia. The regalia, brethren, as you can see, the sash and jewel and collarette are very similar to that of the Royal Ark Mariner in the United Grand Lodge under the United Grand Lodge of England. I'll give you a few minutes to have a look at that. The jewel, as I can remember, that was belonged to. These were found amongst United Grand Lodge and the Grand Lodge of England in Harrogate. And with other research papers I found in the Golden Horn, they managed to bring this order back. So, yeah, that's really the story, brethren. It's not long, it's not much, but I just thought it's an interesting part of history. That ends and concludes it, brethren. It's not much, but... there we go. Is any questions on it?
Thank you, Brother Snowdon. Here, let me get back to.
Have we got any questions?
I wanted to clarify. Was this? You said that when people received the second degree in the Buffalo, they was this an invite only, or did they ask to join?
It was invite only from what my understanding was.
But it was seen as a feather in your cap that you get asked to join this because you progress within the Buffalo.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, so like in the Buffalo, you join, you get the first degree in the Buffalo. How long normally until you get the second degree?
Yes.
What were they called, the degrees?
Well, it can take about a year if a brother wants to rush it and wants to try to get it.
Okay.
Like I explained, they have to go through an council.
Right.
But before that, they have to go in front of they do have to go in front of their lodge. And the lodge tests them on the answers. Then they have to go to a examining council. The examining council will then instruct the brethren and the brother who wishes to go to become a primo, put him in the royal chair and ask the brother to answer the questions and open and close the lodge and to do other things such as that. And if they deem him worthy, then he will progress to the second degree. It can take people. I've seen people myself, because I'm a member of this organization, fail it a couple of times. So it does happen, but it's nothing to stop you the following month going back in front of it and saying, right, I'm ready for round 2.
Okay. So are like the majority of the members just the first degree then? Or is it?
No, majority of the members now are probably Roll of Honor. With the organization has a very sad thing at the moment where the membership's getting too old and we're not getting the young brothers as we need
Right.
in.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm thinking at the time this body was brought about, I mean, it is a bit of, just to simplify, it's a bit of a big deal to get to the second degree because it's an effort to get there. So you get invited to this other body as a recognition that you're a member of that you made the second degree. Because I mean,
basically.
Okay, I don't know. I'm using my own perspective. I didn't hear any of this before the talk, so I'm just speaking for myself. But it's like, making the second degree is a big deal in and of itself. You know what I mean? It's almost like, to me, it's like gilding the lily. Like, well, you already are. Like, well, like if you think about it,
in the organization, it's in the organization, it basically, which is a separate organization to the Freemasons and stuff, the Royal Anti-Moving Order Buffalo is. They call the second degree the key because it unlocks the next step and basically unlocks the door to everything else.
Right. Okay. Well, I did enjoy your presentation. It's something I'd never heard of. The only buffaloes I've heard of are the water buffaloes, which is the organization Fred and Barney belong to here. In the Flintstone.
There's a little story behind. I could tell this quickly.
Sure.
In Whitley Bay, near Newcastle, there was a guy who actually contacted the guy who created the Flintstones to ask if he could use Barney and Fred for charitable badges to sell for 100% proceeds towards a charity. And surprisingly, he actually ripped back saying, yeah.
Very cool. I know I've seen, we have, trying to think of what it is. I think it's the Scottish Rite Journal here, which is the Southern Jurisdictions magazine. There's a contributor who's a 32nd degree who he writes stories about kind of humorous stories about, I forget the guy's name, like Hiram something. But there's a Mason who goes through certain things, and he's a bit of a doofus. But he tells stories about Masonry through this character, and he uses like the water buffalo and all that. He refers to he's drawn pictures of like Fred, but with Masonic stuff, not just the water buffalo stuff. But so we do kind of teasingly pull it into Masonry. We know that it was meant to represent, I would say, the Shriners more than the Masons, but we know it's kind of a tongue in cheek. I'm willing to bet the fellow who created the Flintstones who came up with that was a Mason. But it was meant as a bit of an homage.
Well, there's theories that he could have been a member of the Buffaloes because it was in America in 1998. It was
really?
Still around as of there.
Okay.
As of that date, and then it ceased.
Right.
Over there.
Well, of course, and then to be specific, we are the water buffaloes, not the buffalo. So there is a distinction there. But yeah, it is funny because they wear the hats. I mean, if you all seen them, the big hats, kind of like the Beefeater hats, but with horns and aprons. So, it is kind of a shrine Mason combination thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But fraternal, I mean, back in the 60s, 70s, when the Flintstones was on, fraternal organizations were much more prominent and all that. But I really enjoyed your talk. Anybody have any questions for Brother Snowdon about his presentation?
Michael, just to answer your question, is the REOB side order, or is it an independent order? It's its own organization. It's completely independent of Freemasonry. It's its own fraternity. It's very similar to Freemasonry, though.
Are you required to be a Mason to belong to it? Actually, are any of these?
At one point, the Knights of the Golden Horn, you could only join if you were a member of you had to be a member of the REOB, a knight of the REOB, to be able to become a member of the Knights of the Golden Horn. That was changed, I think, not that many years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brother Derek had a question. Is the ritual similar to that of the Royal Ark Mariner?
Personally, I've never been to the Royal Ark the Guild Ark, the Companions meeting yet. But from what I've been told, it's quite similar. It's to do with like Noah's Ark and stuff like that,
Yep. That's something I want to probably spend some time myself researching, is because we have the Allied Masonic degrees here in the U.S. and one of our degrees is the Royal Ark Mariner. It's been so long since I've been in, I can't even remember what degrees we confer. But just to give a little overview for those who aren't familiar with the AMD, it's a research body. So just from my own personal experience, I joined the Masons, and after a few years, I was asked to actually come attend Virginia Research Lodge. So I joined a research lodge, and that was cool. I joined the Royal Arch as junior or senior deacon because at the time we have the past master's degree that y'all may be familiar with. And to be a Mason in Virginia, to be a elected junior warden, you must either be a member of the Royal Arch or receive the provisional past master's degree. And at the time, the Royal Arch chapters in my area didn't like the idea of provisional. We was like, no, this is a recruiting tool. We can get every single senior deacon every year to join the chapter because they need the degree. And eventually the Grand Lodge said, no, knuckleheads, we own this degree. You are obligated to provide it. And the district deputy will coordinate with you, and you're going to make people available to give a provisional past master's degree. But anyway, so I joined the chapter at that time because I needed to. And then I joined Virginia Research Royal Arch chapter because I was already in the research lodge. It's like, okay, this is cool. And then shortly after that, I got a letter inviting me to join an AMD council. So I'm thinking, here, I'm a big wheel. They're looking for me to join stuff now. This is very cool. But the AMD is meant to preserve, there's about 6 or 7 degrees that were side degrees. I think most of them came from England. And they put the people who organize AMD, and this is a very rough remembering of 20 some years ago, they created the AMD as a way to preserve these side degrees that weren't in the Royal Arch, they weren't in the Scottish Rite, they were just side degrees. They wanted to preserve them and keep them alive because, as you point out, all of these side orders that came about in England and Europe, they come up, they last around 20 years, they have some interest in ritual, and then they just fall by the wayside. So they wanted to preserve some of these degrees. Royal Ark Mariner is one of them. And the purpose of AMD is not only a research body, but they confer, I think, 1 degree on every new member. And then during the year, they're supposed to confer one of the other degrees from time to time. There's a degree for the incoming master. There's a degree for the past master. And I never got mine because I moved right after I went on office, but I was sovereign master one year. And they meet 4 times a year, just like research lodges do. So they're very similar, and they're not just research. What I like about it personally is they do a potluck dinner before, and they invite the wives. And my wife's grandfather was a member, so her grandmother that she was very close to, and she was an Eastern Star and all, they were very active in this AMD council. Now, the guys who invited me didn't know this, but when I joined, I brought my wife to the first dinner, and it's like, well, we brought her grandmother with us, and I think her grandfather had just passed, but he was very big in Royal Arch in our area and very well known and respected. I had no idea. I've only met him a few times. He wasn't active in masonry by the time my wife and I met, and he was already having Alzheimer's. He was, I didn't get to know him as a man because he was on his way out. He was senile, he had dimensional. So, but it was very cool to take her to this thing, and everybody's like all falling on. It's like, Felix Stevens Sr. Oh, he was incredible. Oh man, he was a big deal. So he was well respected in Royal Arch circles in my area. So her grandma loved going with us because she knew most of the older ladies and the members of the council. So it was a lot of fun for us for a few years. But they'd have the potluck. The wives would entertain themselves. They might have a speaker. The men would go meet for like an hour or so and do the paper. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I want to get back to active in a council because they're a lot of fun. Plus, I want to try and get some of the papers from our councils and put them online with our other research papers because we did have some interesting talks.
Yeah.
So anyway, but AMD is very cool. And it very much ties into all this because it's about these little organizations. And on its own, the AMD, they're a big deal at Masonic Week. And one of these years, I need to go to DC. All of these bodies throughout the US, all of these smaller niche Masonic organizations, they all come to DC for Masonic Week. I think to some degrees, they only confer at Masonic Week every year. But like the AMD has a state council and then like a grand council for the whole US. I haven't even delved into where AMD exists elsewhere, but I know they have an American Grand Council that runs everything. They will have their annual meeting and elect their officers during Masonic Week. So it's kind of a cool thing for those of us who are, this is right up our alley. I should make an effort to go to this, maybe one of these years. Anyway.
Dudley, does this order support any significant charity? Do you mean the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffalo? Because they actually are the Knights of the Golden Horn. Because like the Golden Horn still has that remnants from the REOB, where basically they do very local charities. They don't do nationwide charities because it's supposed to be seen as more work. It's not, no disrespect to any other organization, but it's seen as more working class. They want it to be more down to earth. They want it to be like, right, it's a local area, it's a local thing. We need to keep the money in the local area, not send it to some massive charity where it's going to get lost in administrative fees. It's currently, but they do a big one for like in the REOB, like what our equivalent to a Grand Master is a Grand Primo, and he is currently doing the Stroke Association. Currently doing that, raising funds for that, and every year they do a different one. But local areas, districts or provinces, as you would call them, they basically come up with their own charities for their own provincial grand, as we would call a provincial Grand Master. We call it provincial Grand Primo. They would basically come up with a local charity. It's all about local area, which I quite like the idea of, because you can donate 10,000 to some nationwide charity and it ends up getting lost in administrative fees.
Right. It doesn't help. You're locally, you don't know where it's going to go. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
And Chris, just for clarification,
yes.
Working class means socialist.
What's that?
Working class means socialist.
Not necessarily. You don't own them. Any other questions or anything else anybody wants to discuss? All right, I do appreciate the talk. It was a little short, but that's quite all right. We've had some talks that runs over an hour, but it was a good introduction. I thought you'd have more actually. You'd have more about what they went through to get it started. It was just sort of like
no. To be honest, it's that much. Or like a lot of people think that when I tell them that, they're like, "Oh, it's going to be a big story about this." To be honest, it was literally a bunch of Masons, a bunch of Golden Horn guys sitting around a table and buffs, and they went, "You know what? We need to start it. We should bring this back." And it was that easy. That's something a lot of organizations could learn from. Like, instead of just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, actually go out there and do it.
Absolutely.
I think that's a good little message from that.
Yeah. I do have another story about the AMD since it's making me think about it. Because we have the side degrees, and again, I remember they were hired press to get people to present papers. I think I presented one or two in like the 2 years I was there. It's like, oh, you like doing papers? You can give one. But we didn't have the interest to put together enough people to do all of the degrees, because we could do, I think, like I said, there was like 6 or 7 available to us. So instead of investing the time and practicing to do these degrees, we just made up ones on our own. And I'll share, like, we kind of had a running gag, like, let's come up with a new side degree at every meeting. And we came up with the knife and fork degree, which was the sign was this and this, where you, and it was a joke about, what's o'clock, 6 o'clock. Well, let's eat. And, so there was the knife and fork degree for all good Masons to eat at. And one of them was the parking lot degree, because at the time you'd finish up a meeting and typically you'd have to be out of the lodge room. So it's like the parking lot degree was a series of repetitive steps where you would start in the lodge room and you'd have a discussion between, say, 2 or 3 brothers. Everybody else is packed up. Wives have already packed up all the food. Everybody's gone home. And 3 brothers are standing around getting ready to lock the door. And one of them would say, oh, let me bring up this. And the 3 would talk for a few minutes. And then the conversation would get quiet and they'd move outside. And one of them, the sign was your key ring. You would twirl the key ring. And then one of you would bring up something else. You all said goodbye again. That's right. You said goodbye. You walked outside. One of you would pull out his key ring. All 3 of you would say goodbye to each other. And then one of you would say, oh, did I tell you about this? And you talk about something else for another 10 minutes. And then you walk another 10 feet. This is all very structured. You walk 10 feet to the first brother's car. Everybody would say goodbye yet again. One of you would twirl his key ring again. And one of you would then launch into, oh, let me tell you about this. And you talked about some other subject till eventually you all got in your cars and went home. Yeah. But it was a much more formalized version of what happens after every lodge meeting I go to, where we don't have a smoking room to hang out. Yeah. People just hang out in the parking lot and talk for hours. So that was the parking lot degree. We had a lot of fun coming up with these little side degrees.
Just to add, Dudley, yeah, the Oddfellas, they still do have mutual membership. I know Manchester Unity do, because it's more financial and it's more of a mutual aid society now. A lot of these fraternities have turned into that. I know the Foresters, the Oddfellas, and there was one more. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was the Moose. No, not the Moose. It's one of them.
The Gardeners.
No. The Gardeners is still. It's back up. It's up in Scotland. It's funny story of that was their warrant or charter. Someone sent it to South Africa or something, and then it got sent somewhere else, and then it managed to come back to Scotland, and they brought it back. From what I heard, and I think that's brilliant.
By the way, I'd ask you. I realize several people are putting in chats. Well, in the chat, this is going to be on YouTube. So if you have a question, I would appreciate it. Just ask the question, because it's not going to get captured on the YouTube. You're just going to hear this guy answering questions out of nowhere. But I should make a point of reading the question to you all, just so anybody's watching this later catches it, because the chat goes away. I still have a copy of the chat. If I need like an address to put out there for people, I'll put it on Facebook. But questions in the chat don't get shown to the audience. And I'm trying to think, we do it in theory. We have a YouTube audience that's going to watch these videos later. In theory, I don't know that there are any, but anyway. So go ahead. Anyway, was there another question, or do you have more to say, Brother Snowdon? Or
nothing really. Just okay. Other than basically just a little bit of publicity. I run a page called Fraternal Masonic History, where I talk about all different fraternal organizations from the Ancient Order of Druids to the Order of the Pug to the Order of the Red Eagle to the Oddfellas and stuff like that. It's got a massive archive amount of different fraternal organizations. If any are interested, Brian's going to post it on his page.
Good. I'll be happy to put that. You're more than welcome to put that info on our Facebook group, if you would.
I'm just going to share.
Go ahead and share it in the chat if you like.
just going to share a picture now, which hopefully
certainly.
Owen can tell us a little bit about. Or I
Okay.
would, if my system would be kind. I've got a new computer, and fortunately, it's not set up the way that one would hope it would be.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
What's this then, Owen?
Right, that is the first degree regalia. It was presented to a secretary. I know you're seeing it and you're thinking, "Oh, regalia," and it's not really. You're not suited and booted. You should be formal, and But in the buffs, it's a lot more laid back. So, as you can see, that's the first degree regalia, which is a lot more ornate than like the Freemasons one. It gets even more elaborate. It's a lot more expensive. That's the problem.
Right. Now, okay, so just to clarify, that's what the fellow's wearing there with the sash and the apron and all. That is for what body is that?
That's for the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffaloes.
That's
the first
okay.
degree. Hint the kangaroo on it. You might wonder why is there a kangaroo. During the Royal Antediluvian Order of Buffalo, during the old initiation, which is no longer used, the brethren would hop around the lodge and stuff. Hence the name kangaroo. There's only one country where they don't use on the jewel kangaroo. They use a springbok, and that's South Africa.
Right.
Or Africa. Yeah.
That's pronounced Springbok. I've heard. I see it's spelled Springbok, but it's pronounced book. Okay.
So, what are the medals?
The jewels. They're basically, as you can see, the red ones. My Knight Order of Merit. It takes about 4 years to get to that. A Primo, the blue one, that one's a Primo, and the rest are just lodges and various commemorative ones that have been presented over the years.
Wow. And that's Buffalo, or is that Mason?
Oh yeah, that's Buffalo.
That's all Buffalo. Okay.
Although I see a square and compass on the side there.
Yeah, he snuck that in there.
Got to represent the team, Brian.
Absolutely. I did want to welcome brother. I saw someone came. Brother Elias joined us. Good to see you with us, brother. I think you were in earlier. Did you drop out and come back? Brother Elias is a regular here. Just want to say hi to you, brother. You missed most of the presentation, but it'll be on YouTube later. I just like to recognize our regulars when they're here. Okay, very good. Well, and you had mentioned the odd brother Tucker had asked about the Odd Fellows, so they weren't necessarily divided. So these organizations aren't necessarily related to each other. Then the odd, some of the other ones you all mentioned, you said were not necessarily involved. Okay, but I'm sure there are members who are belong to several. I know.
Oh, you can be years ago there was a thing where people were very. You would either join the Buffs, the REOB, or you would join Freemasons.
Right.
Freemasonry, and there was a lot of confliction. You can't be in both, but you can.
Well, there's no reason you can't. I mean, honestly.
So, what's this regalia?
That is the Orange Institute regalia. I'm a member of 2 Orange Order Lodges. I'm a member of Johnson Heroes 264 and the Lancashire 55th Division Lodge.
Oh, wow.
1915.
Is that the Laugh Out Loud Lodge?
Yes, I was wondering that. That has a quite different meaning these days.
Oh, it does, doesn't it?
Well, the Laugh Out Loud Lodge would be the LOLL. That's the difference, Brian. We have a different logo, and it's LOLL. It's kind of like it's a recursive acronym, so it's like the Laugh Out Lodge. It's like GNU, right? GNU is not units; it's a recursive acronym. It keeps on going.
And what's this one?
That's me, and I attended the REOB is starting to do virtual lodges in certain banners. So of course you've got to be on your own and stuff. You can't have like someone present there who's not a member. But it all gets verified and you get checked. Oh, you're definitely a member. So that one there is where I was attending a lodge in Cyprus, which I'm a member of, the James Mercury Lodge, 8599. They've just formed their own Grand Lodge. They're now no longer Grand Lodge of England, but the Grand Lodge of Cyprus. Still we recognise each other and stuff. but that was because there was a brother getting raised to the 4th degree, which is a roll of honor. Or you would address him in the lodge as the Right Honourable, let's say, Brian Smith on the roll of honor.
So now you would not, okay, so you're only able to attend those degrees that you're a member of, correct? I mean, like the ceremony. Okay, so,
Yeah.
all right.
Oh, no. You can attend. They're all open ceremonies. You can all attend.
Oh, okay. So you get to see it. Okay.
Yeah, you get to see it. The
All
only
right.
thing you don't is when the brother goes into the ante room and they get given the sign and password of that degree, and you don't get to see that unless you
Right. Okay. Very interesting. So there are some. I was trying to draw comparisons. Well, like in the Scottish Rite, of course, we have at least in the southern jurisdiction, we have the KCCH, which is the red hat, and that is a public ceremony, and so everyone can see that. The 33rd, you have to be a 33rd to attend and see their ceremony. So
yeah, that's what kind of like about it though. Like it's all open.
Yeah.
Like to an extent.
Right.
Of course, signs and passwords are still like preserved, but
right.
a lot of it is open.
Very interesting stuff. So many different flavors to Masonry. I mean, different things going on in other bodies, and they're all influenced. So were Masons involved in starting up the Buffalo, you think, or were they?
There's, to be honest, there's been many members of like the Freemasonry who've been part of the organization, but there was like, yeah, and I don't know, to be honest. There is rumor that they were the ones what helped start it up. They were the founders of it. But we originate from Actors Guilds.
Oh, do you know when the Buffalo started? What their official start was?
I know it's starting in a theatre. I forget its name. Doran Lane Theatre or something.
Okay. Like, I mean, what year? Do you know what year roughly they started?
Yeah, about the 1800s. But it's supposedly it's older than that.
Right.
A lot of it delved into the occult and mysticism and stuff like that.
Interesting.
But that's a complete different thing, but people do like to look into that.
Right.
Certain other banners do.
Cool. Well, I'm a member of the International Thespian Society, but I think that's pretty much just high school. I don't even know if they continue that into college or whatever, but I am a proud thespian and don't have to pay dues, so it's a great organization to be in. So I think it was mainly for like high school kids in drama and all, but pretty big deal. All right. Andy brother has anything else to offer? I'm going to let's see.
I think Robert's trying to see something.
Oh, please, Robert, unmute.
You're muted.
I was curious if some of the organizations like the Buffaloes and the Ark, are they primarily English?
To next now modern days, yes, but at one point it was all over the world. It was in countries, believe it or not, like Iraq. At one point, I actually have in my possession a jewel from the lodge in Iraq. What happened was when servicemen went off to overseas, a lot of the time they would form Buffalo lodges and stuff in like countries like India, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, all over the place, Africa. Wherever there was a military base, there usually was a Buffalo Lodge, and there's still a few dotted around. There's still the Tequila Garrison one in Cyprus, as I attend. That meets on a military base.
Interesting. I do want to thank Brother Snowdon for his interesting presentation. A lot of good chat here. I do want to announce, and I am neglecting because I try to create the events in advance, but I haven't made one yet. I had to go look it up here. But Brother Eric Larson, who unfortunately doesn't have his mic today, but he is with us. He will be our guest speaker on April 23rd at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, as always. He will be speaking on Freemasonry in Sweden, its origins and status today. So that should be quite interesting hearing about that. I've written a paper on Masonic rites in England and Europe, and Swedish rite was one I covered, and I always thought it was very interesting because Swedish rite is quite different from other Masonic rites, and he'll be able to expand on that. So that should be very interesting. That's in 2 weeks. as you know, our last session, those you were there, we had we talked about all the 5 research lodges in Virginia. I'm currently working on a article to be culled from that meeting and from the written responses from the brothers to put an article in the Virginia Masonic Herald, which is our quarterly letter magazine from the Grand Lodge of Virginia, explaining about what research lodges are. So that should be fun. So I'll let you all know about that. I'll probably make that available once it's published. I'll put it out online as well for those who don't get the Herald, but I have to wait for them to publish it. But that's something I'll make available to y'all. But that's kind of neat to be able to help promote research lodges. So that's kind of been a big deal for us. So this is a little short, but that's quite all right. We're going to finish it under an hour. It's almost unheard of for us, but I appreciate everybody attending. Anybody have anything to offer before we break? It's good to see you all.
Yeah, for me, again, not complete, not, yeah, not really good, not sort of buffs, but you were talking, Owen, to me about a friendly society called the Turtles or
Oh yeah. Well, I also do run a fraternal organization myself. Not the Turtles as you think, the American Mason Turtles, you know, what many is probably all members of. I run my own, which is similar to that. We use kind of the same ritual, but not. Called the Imperial Grand Order of the Mystic Turtles. Basically, we've got a lodge operating up in the Philippines at the moment. We're looking to get one in Canada and in Mexico soon. So with all luck, that will be up and running soon.
Very cool. Great. Well, I see since John Hughes is facing the camera directly, we see that it's Tom. I always tease John because when I see John, he's like this the whole time because he's got the monitor here. So I like to tease him a bit. But I do appreciate everyone coming out today. Brother Snowdon, thank you for a very interesting talk. It was a lot of fun. Good to be with you all as always. And this will be on YouTube shortly. And Eric gave us a thumbs up. So he's happy that we remembered that, yes, he's here in 2 weeks. I hope he remembers that he'll be here in 2 weeks. So make sure there's no more chats, anything to, okay. I thank everybody else for coming. You all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend and we'll see you all soon.